Hank, I was just asking Dan about the team's success on the road, and I know that typically the theory is a defense and a run game travels. How much do your guys appreciate the O-line room appreciate being kind of the villains and being on the road and just taking over a game and silencing the crowd?
I mean, home games are very exciting to stay in. You feel the energy there on your own, but there's nothing like going into opposing stadium and then, taking it over or willing it and trying to win there. It's always fun, because, you're trying to silence that crowd. The excitement there, you're feeding off their energy too, their fans, and there's certain stadiums you go to that the energy level is going to be very high historically, and there's nothing like going in there and winning. It's always tough to win in this business. It's even tougher on the road because the crowd definitely plays a factor in it and helps out, and but it's been exciting this year, and the last 2 years here, the way our fans have traveled, it's felt like a home game sometimes, especially by the end of it.
You enjoyed playing on the road, or fans that you especially enjoyed quieting as a player?
I mean, looking back, as a player or as a coach. So, player, it was always, I played a lot of years in Philly, going to any of those rivals, Dallas, any of those NFC opponents. NFC opponents. But I always, going to school in Pittsburgh, like that atmosphere the Steelers have, their home atmosphere, and they travel very well too. But going there is always a tough road. I can't say I have a great winning record there, but a silence in that crowd's always good, because when I got to the Browns, we didn't win as many there, but it was always tough. So, going there is always a fun experience, because the way the fans are there. So there's every fan. I can go through every NFL team where it's sometimes better than others, but that is just historically a tough place to play.
Think about the improvement that your guys that aren't playing, like Sourdale, Manu, are making during the season. They haven't been active for games, but the improvement they made this year, and if some of the games that you might have to get them in or whatever, are they ready to go?
I try to, or we try to here always prepare like you're going to play, start. It doesn't matter if you're on a practice squad. Take like a Kingsley, for example, as a rookie, trying to get him to prepare like he's going to be a starter, and that's where you're starting to say mentally stay focused because you're out there. But physically, the way we run practices here, those guys are getting their game reps experience going against our defense, and that's where they're getting better at it. They don't get as many reps, say game plan reps, but the mental game is the one that they got to stay focused on. The physical part of it is in practice, so it doesn't change anything. What you're doing, you're running the ball. Like this week, they're operating the Colts offense, more. Well, they might say the name of that play differently, but most of the technique's going to be the same, when you're working on your combinations, your individual man reaches or drive cutoffs and all that. That's not going to change who you're going against. So that's where we want to daily and steadily improve. And it's not just in the O-line room, it's throughout our culture here, every position, because you never know when you're the next guy up. You can get a hangnail on a Friday or a Saturday out here, and all of a sudden you didn't think you were playing, but you're activate and ready to play. So those guys are taking a nice step going forward, and some of those guys have game experience, some don't, yet, stuff like that, in-game experience. But like where Kobe's played a game, at least he's been there and knows what it feels like. Yodi's done a great job with this. But, we do try to cycle in, or I do when I get chances, sub a guy in here, take a guy out, here I'm going to take you out for Panay. Hey, Dak, Frank, you're coming out. So we constantly try to get a guy in there in practice. But in that group, it's sometimes hard to get in there because they might look at him like, no, I'm not coming out. I want that rep. So, which is great, and it's a great atmosphere to have. And I sometimes have to kick a guy out, a starter out, because they'll shoo him back. And it's like, no, he needs that rep, So they're working.
The line this year better than last year?
That's hard to tell. We're consistently, game to game, we got to be consistent. That's all we ask. It's effort, finish, fundamentals on the way in there. Fundamentals don't change. This season's still underway. We've done some good things, and then we've had some of our moments not the best, So at times we're playing very well, and then we've had our hiccups. So it's just that consistency. I would say that they have gelled the whole group. And like years past, but a totally different line. It's hard to compare last year's line to this year, but they've worked hard.
Talking about guys getting reps and stuff like that. Is that one of the small ways you saw, like this coaching staff grow? You look at you guys get to the NFC Championship, and Dan took some heat kind of like for the questionable calls, and you guys stood by him. But when you come back this year, those little things like that factor in the ultimate goal of just getting guys reps.
Yeah, it factors in, but learning moments too, for everybody, coaches, players, you're always learning. You're learning from your success, you're learning from your failures. If you're not willing to do that, teams and people are going to pass you by. So if you're just settled on, hey, we got there, we're just going to say, that worked last year, we can do the same thing. That's not going to happen because every team's going to learn from it. And so we're always trying to grow, not be satisfied. Complacent's your worst enemy. If you get complacent, somebody's going to pass you by. Is it going to be somebody in your own division, or is it going to be a player? For a player example, is somebody younger going to pass you by? So just staying hungry in those moments, just taking them as learning moments, and the more experience you get and put in that situation, not cracking under that. And I think that's where Coach Campbell and the staff, he's put together a good, don't crack under moments and try to, do it in training camp, put the pressure on and understand, I think the biggest thing, most of you guys are probably raising kids too, myself, is they want to know the why you're doing it now, instead of back in the day it was like, don't ask. Now they ask. So tell these guys, this is the reason we're doing these drills. This is why. So when it comes up, they already know. They've already played it in their head. They've already had reps at it. Maybe it's versus our defense in training camp, but we've already been there. We've already been in those situations, and you're not cracking under those situations. In a 2-minute drive, you've already been there about 100 times versus their defense. Now you're in the game. It's like, oh, this is much easier,
An earlier answer, Colby was one of your next men up last year. He's been a healthy scratch most of this season. He did make a kind of a position switch a little bit more to tackle in the offseason. Can you speak to his development, where he's at, maybe both mentally and physically, because it's probably tough for a guy to, not be active on game day?
Yeah, if you're not disappointed not being active, then we got the wrong guy in here, I'm not saying Kobe's disappointed, but we want guys that want to be players and starters, and that's your mentality in here. If you're not starting, it's like, okay, I'm supporting my teammates, but when it's my turn, I'm not giving it over, type mentality. So Kobe's he's grown as a player. He plays much faster in all positions. We move him around a lot. He's reliable to put him anywhere in the offense, on the O-line, not in receivers and running backs, guys, don't get anything there. But he's done a good job. He's grown, and we only get to dress 8, and that's, you wish, you're kind of like college, you could dress everybody and have all that, but we only get to dress 8, and, the 8 that we dress, they play multiple positions too, so if we did lose a guy, he's in the mix to be one of the next guys up, and he's able to play tackle and guard, and that's what's good. He's got flexibility, play the left side, right side, and that's where he's grown probably the most, is being more comfortable going around, playing other positions, and not flinching or feeling awkward over there.
Frank, question for you. It's easy for us to see, when he's driving someone and, kicking off to the second level and hitting the second guy. Can you just put some perspective to the mental side of the game? We hear how good he is, but just how good is he, and explain maybe, why he's, among the elites.
Yeah. He's very special in a lot of different ways for a lot of different things, just being a teammate and all that. He's definitely a coach's best friend because he can solve issues out there. Tanner already hit it. He's got a PhD. I got to figure out where I get that to. But the guys in here, there's mornings he's beating me in, on a Wednesday or, morning. I'm like, what are you doing here? Because he's trying to digest that game plan like a quarterback does. And he's locked into, knowing the looks, where they're at, what needs to be done in the run game, kills, pass game, stuff gets killed. He sees the big picture. And being here with him since rookie year to now is a totally different player. And it's unbelievable to watch him grow and understand what's going on. And he understands the true why and why we're doing it. And if he doesn't, he's going to ask. And he's excellent out there. He is a player coach out there. I'm not saying he'll ever get into coaching and stuff like that, but that's the type of mentality or personality you got out there, person. You hear it all the time. People talk about quarterbacks being coaches out there and seeing it and playing like a coach. And he's able to digest it all out there. And he just can recognize it and what's coming, and he puts a lot of time and effort into it. And if things aren't right for him too, he can be frustrated too. If the playbook's a little wrong, hey, why is this call? Why is this? You got it wrong, coach, here, So it's great. He can keep you in check, and it makes you a better coach when you have players like that, though, that are very smart and they can see everything. And I can't speak around the league. I know there's other centers. I've coached other centers and playing it myself. Somebody like back in the day that Jarrett's played with is Sullivan. I had him in Minnesota. He went out there, very smart, cerebral type center, can see it all, make the calls, change, help in the run game, make calls, flip the protections. So there's a lot of good centers that do it, and then there's some that, hey, it's the quarterback's job to do it, and you just go out and play ball and make the calls. So when you have somebody in the middle like that, that can be a rock and get everybody on the same page and make it, and if something's a little funky, figure it out there and make you right. It makes things a lot easier.
You guys signed Zeitler, did you realize he was going to be as good as he's at least played?
You know, when you're doing your study and all that, you're hopeful for it, and he's been a solid player for us. He's been stout. He brings a different demeanor in that position, you know, that we have. He's, you know, strong, physical player. So it's been fun for us to get him here, and he's been, you know, reliable and durable and stuff like that. Throughout his whole career, if you look at it, for 13 years, he's been that same player.